Okay. Okay, so we'll continue with the foundation hand today. So we've done the basic shapes that you need to know for practice. And then we are going to develop these shapes further into the small letters today. And then next week we will make the capital letters. Now this script, foundation hand, is about 100 years, 150 years old, and it was devised by a person named, oh my God, I've forgotten his name. I'll tell you. But he was also part of the arts and crafts movement. I think it was John Edwards or something like that, Jonathan Edwards. I'll give you his name. And he's written a beautiful book about how lettering and illumination works. So I'll give you those details also. That book is now freely available on Project Gutenberg. So if you want to read it, download it, it's available, and also a copy is available on Amazon if you want to buy it. So this the book talks about all these Latin scripts or Roman letter based scripts and how they evolved. So they're a very nice, they give you a whole idea about how to create your own scripts, right? From writing with a pen and also going into even carving letters. So proportions of letters, the history of letters, what looks aesthetically pleasing, what is technically correct, all of that has been explored in that. So I'm not going to get into that much technicality, because for that, then we'll have to do a proper calligraphy class, and then we will have to spend a lot of time in perfecting our strokes and everything. But I want you to be able to make this script even casually. You will goof up a little bit here or there, that's fine. So if you are to tell anyone what script it is, you can just say it is based on foundation hand, just to keep yourself safe from criticism from the nerdy calligraphers out there. So the script, like I told you, is based on the strokes that we've done in the past. It's just we spoke about this pen widths and how to make a scale. The foundation hand is written on a scale of 5 pen widths height of letters. And the pen is held at a 30-degree angle. So it's at a slant rather than holding it horizontal. So because we hold it that way, we are able to do a lot of interesting shapes with the corners of letters, creating certain interesting serifs. So we are going to go through this very slowly. Even if we don't finish the entire alphabet, it's fine. I don't want you to speed through this, because this is the one thing in lettering that you should not have, excessive speed. So if you feel yourself going fast, or in fact, I would say the other way around, if you think your strokes are not up to mark, there's a chance that you're making them too fast. When we write very fast, because now writing is all just about jotting stuff down. We are not really paying attention to the aesthetic beauty of writing. The whole function of writing has changed over time. But this, I would like you to take the lettering bit as making shapes, beautiful shapes, which when come together resemble letters, and then we can communicate thought. If we do it that way, then you're focusing on each stroke at a time and not rushing to making a letter form. So today, to start off, we will just revise few of those shapes, practice making the vertical lines, horizontal lines, and ovals. And just for one line, and then we will proceed to make the exemplar on one sheet. So I'm going to show you how to make that scale and everything after we finish this practice. Now, to decide on what is a 30-degree angle, here's a simple trick you can do where you can at least get an idea of whether or not your angle is close to 30 degrees or it is way off. Somewhere in the corner of your practice page, Of course, now this is if you don't have uh what is it, a protractor or compass. I never know which is the right one. The one that tells you angles. I should know. So if you make a line perpendicular to your baseline, you know you've got 90 degrees. If you um if you measure these andaze se and you join and create a triangle sorts, and you cut the line in half, join it to the angle, you know you've got 45 degrees here. Now, visually, if you cut this line further into 3 parts, you will have some indication of where your 30 would be. This would be 15, this would be 30, and because this is 45. So this becomes your line, and you will place your pen on this line every time you want to orient yourself, so that you don't make it too upright or too horizontal. And you can keep going back to this and then carry the line back to your page and make the shape. So we'll make vertical lines.
Thank you for that. Otherwise, I've been wondering how this 30
Yeah,
degree looks.
yeah.
Thank you.
So last time I just indicated 30 degrees so that you know that you don't have to keep it horizontal or vertical. But this time I felt now you should be ready. So make slow lines. In the beginning, making a straight line of this length, holding a pen at a weird angle can be a little difficult or just uncomfortable. So just make it slowly. And if you are the types who gets anxious with this, exhale while you're making the line. Definitely don't hold your breath, because that's not going to help you at all. Now, after you've done with this practice, I'm going to continue on this line over here just to save some paper. Unfortunately, I don't have my green pen, so I'm going to use this purple pen. I'm going over, okay, before I start that. Today I'm using a scale. If you have a scale handy, it'll just help us to make these lines quicker. And also, if you use measurements, then we are ensured of an accuracy in the thickness throughout the length of the line. We can start off with making a line along the parallel to the left edge of the paper. This is going to be our margin. Along the margin, we will make a whole series of these pen widths. So just a reminder that the pen width is marked keeping the pen upright. So I'm not holding it at 30 degrees. I'm holding it upright. The edge is upright so that I get the full width of the pen. And we continue to make these lines all the way, all along the edge of the paper. If you are starting on a new sheet, then you can make on the entire sheet, right from the top to the bottom. So I'm removing this one baseline which we made last time. And this time I am marking with a scale. So I'm going to accommodate for the ascender. All these letters are on the within what's called the X height. But we will have ascenders and we have descenders. The height of the ascenders and descenders is also a proportion of the X height. That is what makes the shape of the letters consistent, whether you write with a small pen or whether you write with a large pen. It is not dependent on a scale of this kind where centimeters or millimeters are counted, but the scale marked in pen widths. So for the foundation hand, we will keep an ascender space of 3 pen widths and draw the what will become the waistline, and then go down 5 pen widths. So this will become our baseline. Go further down 3, this will become our descender line. So you will make a set of lines like these, 3, 5, and 3. So ideally, you have a scale that will go absolutely parallel, but often that is not the case. So you can also double check by measuring at each point what is the distance over here. Don't assume that the distance you keep for 3 pen widths at the top is going to remain the same at the bottom. Now, just to save some space, I'm in this case, I have made 3, 5, 3, and I'm going to overlap my baseline and X height over here. And I'm gambling that some of the letters over here will not have either or will have only one. Oh, my lines are all teda. Now, when you're practicing, I'm going to show you if I do it on the other back. Every time if you're going to make the scale, it's going to drive you nuts. And I can see that your practice is going to completely dwindle. Just the thought of making the scale and marking the lines. Although it's always recommended that you make fresh lines, it's impractical to practice that way. So we have to come up with some solutions. So you take one sheet on which you make the scale very accurately, and you mark these lines carefully with a pen. And then for practice, use a slightly non-absorbent paper that you can work these pens on and place it on top. So if a 70 GSM printer paper is available, often because of its weight, it can be used as a practice paper, and the scale and the guidelines can just be permanent, can be used below, and you can write on top of that. We used to do this in school. I'm sure you also must have done it when you had to write some projects on blank paper. We use a template of the lines below the paper. And there's nothing wrong with doing that also. Now, if you want to make a permanent template, I would recommend definitely measuring out your distances. Now, although I'm using a roller scale, and in a perfect world, it would just roll parallel lines. It doesn't always do that. So I don't trust it. Then I don't trust anything and anyone anyway. And depending upon how you are sitting, how light is falling on your paper, all distances can look a little off. So my technique to draw lines is to measure the first few. So this is 1.4. Make it 1.4. In most cases, it should continue to be the same, but I will not take that risk. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 2.2. And then this should be 1.4 again, but it's 1.4.5.
Sorry, I don't know. Are we so we're doing ascender 3, then 5, then again 3, and do we leave after that some more, or we just go again 5, 3?
No, no. So leave again 3, 5, 3, because that way you can practice all letters anywhere. If you've not left that ascender space, then if you're practicing ascenders, then that could go into into the space of the descenders. So just for this page, you can do ascenders and descenders separate. But later on, even if you overlap that space, that's fine.
It'll be 3, 5, 3, 3, 5, 3, 3, 5, 3.
Correct.
We
Yeah.
go on like that, no?
Correct. Yeah. If the measurements are coming more than more than a millimeter, if there's more than a millimeter of a difference in 3 pen widths in one area and 3 pen widths in another area, then there's a chance that you probably rolled your pen when you wrote it. But stay true to the pen width, because if you don't do that, then there's a chance that you'll make some big and small. That is still fine, but when you write the letters, at least you'll know the measurement next to it correctly. Five, 3, 3, 5, 3. In olden times, when calligraphy was done in monasteries, they would have different apprentices to do different jobs. That's how most art learning or any kind of skill was passed on. So you could have a young apprentice. Of course, as soon as you enter, the first task you would probably do is just clean out everyone's spaces, um, make the inks and do the gada majuri, literally. Then one of the tasks was to draw these lines. Once you see how time consuming and tedious it is, you know why it was given to young monks in a monastery. But they did have techniques by which they didn't always make the lines, because in many texts you don't see lines. You see that the text is aligned, but it's not, there is no line underneath it that's drawn. And also you notice that the document is, or the manuscript is made on vellum, which can be translucent, but definitely not as transparent as paper. So one wonders how they managed to do this. The trick was in the fact that they wrote on vellum. So they would use like a blunt butter knife or table knife. And imagine if this is the sheet of vellum, you could, they would make holes at these points. And they would probably insert there was a, how did they do this thing? They would keep the paper such that the apprentice could align the holes, and then using that knife, you can still do this, using the blunt edge of the knife, he would score the paper. So you could see just a small invisible indent, not invisible, slightly visible indent in the paper. That would be your guide, and you could write on that. That way, in time, when the book was bound, by the time the book was bound, that indentation will disappear. Okay. Now you can use this as a template and write your letters on a separate sheet. I'm going to write it on this marked sheet because then otherwise you won't be able to see what I'm doing. No, I'm next one more to the other side. So let's try writing the first few letters. We wrote the letter I first. So hold your pen again at 30-degree, at a 30-degree angle. The tall side of the pen towards your thumb, short side towards your pointer finger. Make a line that's comes straight down and then turns a little bit to the side, but the angle of the pen doesn't change. And then you make this nice curved line. This will be the eye. And we give it this shape on top where you can hold the pen slightly upright this time. The ductus of the eye is so. 1, 2, and 3. The next, we will just expand this a little further and start from the top and create an ascender. So you do the same thing, but with a tall stem, turn on its side and give it a nice wedge on top. This is the letter L. Now I'm going to give you another whole set of letters which will reinforce this shape. So when you're practicing, practice in this order, not necessarily A to Z. Now the next letter, we are going to turn the bottom out. This would be called a turned foot. But we are going to now start turning our line a little more. So, or should we? No, wait, before we do that. Let's continue with this. Make the same shape, but now from the X line. Excuse me. Make it from the X line down all the way to the descender. Make the exact same shape. And now just observe this. Don't start from the top. Start a little lower where when you make the, I'm going to make the letter P. Where you, if you make that 30-degree line, it will be the thinnest part of the pen. Go outward a lot. And then from the inside, start a little higher so that you can get this nice rounded shape. So we need to do this in 4 strokes. You will have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So don't resist the temptation of going backwards towards the main stem. Now the next one, we will keep making similar shapes. Again, let's make the long stem first. And this time we will make an arch. So Ashita, look first. Don't draw. So again, start a little lower so you can get that negative triangle space over there. go make, I think we made the arch last time. So you make it in the same, start curving it almost as if you're going to make an oval, but gracefully turn a little before that and make it, make that foot. Now to practice this further, we will make the N, but same thing with the shorter stem. And you have to make the arch of the N and M identical. Now, when I say you have to make it identical, this is ideal for the foundation script. But since we are loosely making it on this, a little unnese piece, as you can see, even my spacing is not accurate. It's fine. Don't lose sleep over it. So there is a certain matrix for measurement proportion for even the width of these letters. And as you can imagine, some letters are rounder, some letters are more rectangular, some letters are even thinner. So there is, based on how the Roman letters were formed, all these proportions are more or less, they all follow the same rule. But you don't need to worry about that too much at this stage. It's good enough to just know. So for the M cannot be twice the size of N. It's going to be about 2/3 or 3/4 of the size. So obviously we are going to have to manipulate our arch so that it is not too big, but it can't be half the size. And of course, the tops have to match. Mine doesn't. Oh, God. Okay, and the last one in this series will be the letter. Actually, let's just keep this one series. Now, the next in the series, we will move with, we will start making the foot wider. So, yeah, either one is fine. Let's make the letter B. And in order to do that, you can come down straight and start turning a little early and make it a nice wide. So you need to be able to see the oval shape over here. Finish off the top and then finish the next part like you would have done the P. So you'll notice that if you keep your shapes, if you manage to get one shape proper, everything else starts coming a lot easier because it's almost like a form of Lego bricks. Normally, when we write our letters, they are very narrow. So, when I started writing these letters, I realized that I had to really exaggerate my shape. And that takes a little while to get used to. All right, now we're going to make the oval shapes first. Or what to do? Oh no, we can finish the other two. Okay, so in the same vein, because we're using the first stroke, this is our first stroke. We will continue to practice the same one. 1, 2, and 3. This time you will make the stroke just a little above. So just that one pen width above the X line. And then right below, you will make the crossbar. So you will have this really tiny triangle shape here. If you take it too high, you have a very big, ugly triangle. This is a very subtle triangle shape that just happens automatically. It happens because you make one line. So if this is the line of, this is our, no, maybe I'll use a brush. This is our 30-degree line. This is our X line. You have started making one line coming down here. And the next line you will make keeping the brush or the pen here. So it'll just cross over like that. So you don't have any blank spot here. If you make this too high and make this too low, you will get this line coming straight, this line going sideways, and you'll get this L shape here. So best is to position both these exactly above and below, and each of them in that 30-degree line, one below the other. When you write this in ink, this little corner over here automatically fills up so beautifully. It doesn't even seem complicated. It is not, in fact. If you place it correctly, it's not. Our habit is to make the ascender of the T really tall. So we'll end up writing it right from the top. In fact, if you're writing it from here, you feel like you're doing something wrong. But the moment that crossbar comes in, it looks like a convincing T. So there's no problem there. And the next letter to follow the same pattern will be the letter U, where we do the same first stroke, but shorter this time, and just see how much shorter it is than T. And when you come here to the end, always place your pen where you want it to come down to. Observe this, and then take the pen straight up to that point, and then bring it down. That way you can always measure and know what is going to occur. You don't have to make this and then quickly place it and say, "Arey, I came too close," or "I went too far." All right, let's come down to the next set of letters. We'll start off with making an O. To make the O, start making the line from about 11 o'clock, then turn gracefully, come towards 5 o'clock, and then complete the stroke from the other side. So you tend to go a little outward from the point, and come and join here in this diagonal manner. If you try to come all the way to the top and then come straight down, you will make a straight line. So go around this way. It's important to not try to make this over in one stroke. You might be able to do it because our pen allows us to go in all sorts of directions, but it's better not to. Moving on to the letter C, which is just part of this. So the C comes and stops right here, right? These 2 points will be vertically aligned. So if I were to keep my finger over here, the remaining part of the oval must look like the C that I have made. And all parts of, or sorry, all the letters that we make in the series of the oval must look like as if you've just taken part of this and attached it to another stroke maybe. Now the E is just another progression from here. You make the C again, and there's 2 ways you can make the E. You can make a horizontal line, or if you want, you can just take a line straight from there and make, well, an angular bar, not a crossbar. And again, in this case, if I were to put my finger over here, this part should look like it is a C. I'm going to show you the other E as well because I find that a little more pleasing to the eye. I brought this line lower. And then I'm going to join this in such a way that I maintain this angle here. It might be easier to make this the first one in the beginning. And then over time, as you start maintaining your the shape better, you might be able to make the second one. In the first E, the crossbar comes from top to bottom. The second E, the crossbar goes from left to right. Now for the next two letters, we again make the C. One we are going to put an ascender, one we are going to put a descender. But even for this, remember that the ascender and descender should come just at this spot where you have left off. So I would place my pen here, trace a line up in the air to where I should begin this so that it comes in the right place. And I don't have extra lines. I got one extra on the right and will not have an odd negative triangle space over here. And we do exactly the same thing without, of course, the serif on top. And we get a Q. Is it easy enough?
I am still struggling with the thinner lines. Thinner
With
lines are still not coming.
which thin lines? These.
Yeah, these thin lines.
Okay,
Yeah.
can I see what you're doing? It might just be one minor tweak to set you
Yes,
right.
I think I'm also I'm also having the same. And sometimes the turns are not at the exact place they should be. Otherwise,
Is the pen blotting a lot?
yes,
A
mine
little,
is.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Mine is also a
so
new set now, so
so try to not press too much.
Okay.
Sometimes that can also cause excess bleeding, and then the lines become thick. Though you might be making it absolutely correctly, it might be that. So Ashita, in your case, I don't see the baseline and the BTU line.
yeah.
Uh, I'm not seeing the baseline. Are they 5 pen widths high?
Yes, yes.
One second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now what's happened is in that space, your pen widths have also overlapped. So while you see them as 5 pen widths, they're not exactly next to each other. So the
So
height of
it's
the letters is
um,
shorter, so the proportion is going to be odd. Plus, if you don't give enough space and your pen is bleeding, so it's like the perfect storm. And might make your letters look a little plump, I should say. The line might look plump. But I
or
can see that your strokes are okay,
even
so this will change.
yeah.
Yeah, so for the end, right now you're going very angular. Try to go rounder. In the practice of making it rounder, you might land up making the letters really wide, but do that and then start making the line a little closer, turning to the line closer. Right now, it's just going too angular.
Yeah. Same with the H also. H
Yeah. So only
goes
for those, but the B you've got fine because you started making an oval shape in this clockwise direction, and that turned out fine. So you need to apply that same thing to start the H, but then come down straight a little earlier. So it's the same thing, but come down here. All right. So we'll move on to the next letters, which will all have some kind of oblique line. So in this case, we will make a shape like this. This is going to be the V. And the next stroke comes a little to the right. So where you end the stroke, you take your pen right up in the air a little bit and then shift it a little, almost like one pen width to the right, and then bring it down like so.
So the serif on this on the left side is included in the. It starts. You start with it. It's
It will
not
be,
an ad.
no,
Yeah.
it's automatic because of how you hold the pen. For W, we will make this shape twice, but a little narrow. The same kind of logic as we did N and M. This shape, see what angle you took it out at the first stroke and try to bring it down a little straighter. Okay, then wait. Then you will make the next stroke just like we made the V. Take the stroke a little to the side, and I tend to make my stroke with just one edge of the pen over here, just for beginners. Repeat the same stroke as number one, and then make the stroke like the second stroke of V. This is another one where you will take some time. All strokes are coming downward.
You should make a printed template available
Of
of
this,
this. No, yeah, either this or even the left. I'm just thinking we're doing it so wrong. So now if we
yeah.
follow our own, we will be.
Yeah, I'll share this with you so you'll know, you'll be able to do that. Now we'll repeat. I should have done this before with the W. For the next letter, repeat the V shape again. But this time, you will extend this line a little further. Don't make it too curved. Just extend it a little further and bring it down to make the Y. You'll appreciate how so many of these letters are so beautifully designed that it's just once it's this, once it's that, but it's more or less the same thing. A limited set of shapes to make multiple letters. The next one, it's literally these shapes, but changed up just a little bit. This time we are going to make our curve even wider, and we are going to make this shape but in a different space. So you'll bring up one stroke, draw a line in the air, and from here you will, sorry, you don't come here, you come to the center and you bring a line up to the right, right above this foot. And then on the other side, take a line behind. This is one of the few places where you can take a stroke backwards, but you can also take it forward. And make these in 2 strokes if you can, because then you can control the shape of the letters. I'm going to make it like this, but I'm going to put an arrowhead in both directions. So you have 1, 2, stroke 3. I have made the arrowhead in both directions. You can practice one way or the other. Sometimes one direction would suit you better than the other. Okay, now the next one in this series is the letter K, because I'm going to use the same diagonal slant in that as well. If you have room over here, make it over here, or I'm making it up here. This is an ascender stroke with a turned foot. We take a stroke from here towards the middle. And don't turn it in too much. It comes at a diagonal. And then a little away, not right over here, not in the same place, a little away, we will make a line that goes like the first stroke of the V in the same direction. I think mine is a little narrower than I would like, but it's still okay. So in many of these cases, you will notice that the letter R in the capital and the K in the capital and small, the leg of the R does not originate from where the arm joins the main stem. There is room here. There's some space to breathe here. And there are 2 reasons for this, very practical. When you write such letters with ink, wherever 2 strokes join or they connect or they intersect, the ink will, and the second time you make the line, it flows a little more into that space, creating what's called an ink jump. And where you should anticipate a nice crisp intersection, you get a blob, just because that ink spreads over there. Now imagine if we have one main stem, the arm and the leg all at the same point, this entire area will just become one big blobby mess. So they've just shifted the stroke a little bit to allow to at least avoid getting that blob. But secondly, also with this kind of thickness of letters, it helps to have some breathing space between the letter to appreciate all these cute shapes that get created. All right. Now in the same line, I'm going to make the letter F. Now here is something different. Here we are going to start the letter from the ascender line as if we are starting an oval, but the line is going to come straight. So I'm going to start like the oval, start turning to the left, but then bring the line straight down and end at an angle. I could have ended it slightly higher. I'm going to do a small stem like that at the bottom. This can go on the baseline really. And then from the other side, make a shape like the C. and then a crossbar like the T. So just remember to stop slightly higher than the baseline. I went all the way down to the baseline. This shape should come on the baseline. Okay, the next letter is going to be A. So this is how we'll make it. Intuitively, you feel it's going to be like this, but no. Imagine, no, so we'll first make an arch. We don't even have to imagine anything. You're familiar with the arch. And then you will make a line like we made the E. And then from here, you will make the remaining part of the oval that will come and join up. So this is like half of the C, or a quarter of the C from this side. This is the bottom of the C. This is the top of the arch, and this line is like the E. So when you're practicing these, you must practice making big letters, big strokes. It would help if you make these letters wider than narrower. And in the beginning, you might make them too wide, so they start looking really fat. And then you find some place in between. So it's going to be like a yo-yo diet for you. Now we've just got 4 letters left. And these are the odd shapes. They don't fall under any category. So leaving a little extra room from the left, we are going to attempt the J. So we will make a long stem and start moving towards the left as soon as we come down the baseline, and then make a shape like it is, like we made the B. So you make as if you're turning towards the left, and then from the left, you come and join a stroke that will complete the bottom of the J. So here's how it will go. You come straight down, come below the baseline, and then you gently start moving towards the left. Don't go too far. And then from the other side, just visualize this oval. From the other side, you come and join the J. So it's a very nice, wide shaped letter. Edward Johnston. Yes, Edward Johnston. That's the guy. Okay, next is R. The R starts off with a short stem like the I, but then about 1 pen width below, you make a line that goes angular 30 degrees up and then comes slightly low and goes sideways. Don't make it an exaggerated S shape. It just goes up and sideways. Now for the next two, we have one common snake-like shape. So I just wanted to observe this thing. The S can be very complicated because it is two oval shapes, one on top of the other. Oh, by oval, I mean these kind of circular shapes. So we have to be very careful where we want to turn to create the most graceful stroke and yet not have the letter look too clunky. So far, you'll notice that all the shapes that we've used consume the entire space of the X height. But the S is the one odd one which wants to do something extra. So the trick over here is to again space it out and at one point almost go horizontally sideways. So I want you to just observe this. Every time I make an S, there's lots of trepidation. So let's hope this works. I'm starting like we start for the oval, but make a quick turn, go almost horizontal, and then make a quick turn again. So it's a shortish stroke. It's not too long, but it is quite clunky because it goes right through the middle. And then I will make a stroke that comes to the right. These two should be aligned, and so should the back. So as far as possible, you don't want to overshoot over here so that your S might look leaning backwards. Or you don't want to make it so short that it starts looking like it's leaning forward. In order to ensure that you at least have some control over this shape, I would recommend mark the half line, draw two, not pure circles, but at least ovals, and then trace your line in such a way that you can visualize part of the circle going through the middle of the stem. In time, you'll start to predict how far a line should go by the stroke that you make with your pen. That width of the line will no longer be a mystery to you. Currently, I feel you know where your line is going because it's just monoline. But here, because it is wide, you make a stroke and then suddenly it's gone too far or it's stayed too close because we are still getting used to the width of the line visually. Now, the next one is similar, but not this complicated. But it's again very odd and I don't know why. This time you can mark a line at about 1 pen width higher. And we are going to make a circle shape over here. I want you to just observe this first and then make it later. So we are making a smallish oval first. And this looks like the baby sister of our big oval. The shape is the same, just a little smaller and fatter. Then a little from the left, we start making this S shape, almost like how we made the S itself, but we will take this line further, go all the way down to the descender line, and never trouble your pen too much to come from the other side. Make a line from the other side and come and connect with the G over here. Oh, wait, and then also keeping your pen at 30 degrees, just make a short horizontal ear over here. I made it just short of the X line deliberately.
They really ran out of shapes, I think, by the time they reached G.
Yeah, well, at least in this script, the G was made along with the rest of the letters. But the story goes that the G itself was invented in the year 230 BC by this chap who was a teacher of lettering. I wouldn't say handwriting because I think he had a letter carving studio or something like that. So very few people who would become artists who carved these big edicts in the Roman Empire. I believe that was the place where he taught. And because his was a school and he probably wanted to formalize everything, he began to notice that a lot of times the few people who could read and write, even those few people found one thing confusing. The sound of the letter G and the sound of the letter C are were common or not were common, were both represented only with a C, and you had to know what the other person is trying to say based on the context. But if I am at your house and I want to hang my coat, but I've also brought my pet and you'll end up hanging my goat, that might be a little problematic. So he just got very angry one day and he said, you know what, let's just put a vertical line at the end of this, that becomes the G. So a coat and a goat will not be hanged in the right place or not. But by this time, it's been 2000 years. So the G is pretty established. And I would have thought that you could have taken this shape and made a G like a normal person. But no, you wanted to just show off. And you decided, you know what, I'm just going to make it a little bit harder just for the sake of beauty. So this week you can practice these letters and make sure you just practice one letter at a time. Don't practice the exemplar like how I have taught today. I wanted to finish the letters, but if you're making an I, just make a whole line of I's. Then, when you're making it, after each letter finishes, review it. See what has worked and what hasn't worked. If something hasn't worked, remake the stroke at least in the air, if not directly on the letter itself. And change your hand's habit to make the right letter. You will know what is the right letter to make only after you've made the wrong letter or the wrong stroke. So this little going back and forth and reviewing physically is very important. And only after that, make the next I, then review again, then make the next I. That way you will keep teaching the hand the right movement. And then even without concentrating, you will be able to make those letters better. If you keep making this fatafat, and say, today I'm going to finish the whole alphabet without taking care of how much time it takes, then you could be teaching your hand something wrong. And then erasing a muscle memory takes longer. So when you're setting a memory into your hand, do it right. And also always work with time. So say I'm going to work for 20 minutes and then do whatever you need to do in those 20 minutes. And that does not mean you have to do the whole alphabet. So we have to work slightly differently than how we have become used to. We set a time and we set a goal and we decide that that has to be achieved. So we do whatever we have to, we don't pay attention to anything else, and we finish the task because time is important. In this case, the task is important. It's okay if you take longer, but the task of making that line, if it takes a whole day, take that whole day. Because once you've embedded that learning, then you just sail through. It's a good foundation. You can keep building on that. Not just this script, even other scripts. You'll be doing a lot of good rather than bad. Okay, so next week I will take on the capital letters.
Okay. Aditi, could you once write it in like a sentence, or how can we use this? Could you do
Yes,
that once?
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Just 1 second. I don't think I can write a sentence, but I'll write a word at least. Let me see if this color works. Yeah. So you won't be writing this, writing letters in this for sure. Takes a lot of time.
Lot of time. It's so beautiful.
So you can at best make titles. So when you are writing, say if you want to do travel illustration and you want to write the name of a city, you can definitely do it in something like this. We are practicing in a much wider pen than you would land up writing, only because in a smaller pen, all these nuances are lost. In a larger pen, when you perfect this, then you can easily go to small pens and write much better. And for all you know, you might be able to write even lots of paragraphs. It's up to you.
Okay.
I'll share this also, so you can practice this.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll see you next week, Wednesday or Thursday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday is fine.
Wednesday is
All
fine.
right. All right. Okay, chalo. See you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Priya. Bye. Thanks.